Welcome back to Real Family Secrets. Grab your snacks, get comfortable. The people in these stories had every chance to behave themselves. They just chose wrong. Drop a comment and be sure to subscribe. You're going to love it here. My name is Richard Colton, and 3 months ago I paid $412,000 for my daughter's wedding. I want to tell you that number not to brag, but because you need to understand exactly how much was at stake when everything I thought I knew turned out to be built on a lie. Emily is my only daughter, 31 years old, a pediatric nurse, the kind of woman who cries at dog food commercials and means every word she says. When she called me in February and said, "Dad, I met someone," I heard it in her voice before she said another word. This was it. This was the one. His name was Julian Marsh, 34, worked in international logistics consulting, a phrase that should have bothered me more than it did at the time. He was charming in the specific way that con men are charming, though I didn't know that yet. He shook my hand too firmly. He remembered small details about my life and repeated them back to me at exactly the right moments to seem attentive. I've spent 26 years in commercial real estate. You learn to read people in that business, or you go broke. And something about Julian never quite settled right in my chest. But Emily was happy, and when your daughter is happy, you learn to ignore the small voice. The wedding planning moved fast, 6 months, which is fast for a wedding this size. Julian pushed for speed, said his work visa situation made a longer engagement complicated. Emily didn't question it. I did, quietly, in the way I question everything, which is to say, I didn't say a word out loud and instead picked up the phone. I called a private investigator named Gloria Reyes. I'd used her firm twice before, once for a business partner who turned out to be embezzling, and once for reasons I'd rather not get into on this recording. Gloria doesn't do anything halfway. I want everything, I told her. Marriage records, immigration status, financial history, all of it. You think he's after her money? Gloria asked. I think, I said slowly, that I don't know what I think yet. That's the problem. 3 weeks passed, cake tastings, venue walkthroughs, a $4,000 deposit on a string quartet Emily had fallen in love with at a friend's wedding. I wrote every check with a knot sitting quietly in my stomach, the kind that doesn't go away no matter how many times you tell yourself you're being paranoid. Gloria called on a Tuesday morning. I remember because I was standing in my kitchen, coffee going cold in my hand. "Richard," she said, "you need to sit down." I'm sitting. Julian Marsh is currently, legally, still married. Clark County, Nevada. Married 2 years ago to a woman named Priya Marsh. No divorce filing on record. Anywhere. I didn't say anything for a long moment. The coffee cup was still in my hand. I remember focusing on the steam rising off it, the way you focus on something small when the large thing in front of you is too big to look at directly. "There's more," Gloria said. I dug into his financials. He's not a logistics consultant. He was for about 8 months, until the company let him go. Since then, his only income appears to be your daughter's fiancé allowance, the one you've been depositing for the engagement expenses. He's been living off money I gave him to marry my daughter, while still married to someone else. That's the shape of it, yes. Here's the part 1 need you to understand about me, because it explains everything that happened next. I did not scream. I did not call Emily immediately and blow up her life in a 5-minute phone call. I have learned, over 26 years of negotiating deals worth more than most people's houses, that the person who reacts first usually loses. So I did the only thing that made sense. I built a trap, and I built it patiently. I asked Gloria to dig deeper into Priya Marsh, the actual wife. What I found changed the entire shape of my anger. Priya wasn't some scorned woman hunting for revenge. She was a 32-year-old ICU nurse in Henderson, Nevada, who had spent 2 years thinking her husband was working overseas on an oil rig, sending home a few $100s a month for expenses while barely being reachable. Julian had been running the exact same script on 2 women at once. Marry one, disappear for work, marry, or in Emily's case, prepare to marry the next, and drain whatever accounts he could access from both directions. I flew to Henderson myself. I sat across from Priya Marsh in a diner off the Strip, and I watched a woman's entire understanding of her marriage collapse in real time over a cup of coffee neither of us drank. He told me the rig had bad cell service, she said. Her hands were shaking around the coffee cup. He told me that for 2 years. I'm sorry, I told her. I know that doesn't fix anything, but I need to ask you something, and I need you to think carefully before you answer. What? Do you want to come to a wedding? Emily's wedding was scheduled for the 3rd Saturday of September at a vineyard estate outside Charlottesville that had cost more than my first house. 212 guests, string quartet, a ceremony arch covered in white roses that alone cost $6,000. Priya Marsh sat in the back row, in a plain navy dress, next to Gloria Reyes, who had a folder in her lap thick enough to stop a bullet. I had asked the officiant, an old friend from my Rotary Club who owed me a favor, to pause at one very specific moment. Right after, if anyone has any reason this couple should not be joined, and right before anyone else could speak first. I raised my hand. The entire vineyard went silent. 212 faces turned toward me. Emily, in her mother's wedding dress, altered to fit her, looked at me with an expression I will never forget as long as I live, confusion sliding rapidly into fear. "Dad," she said, just that, one word. "Emily, I love you more than anything in this world," I said, my voice carrying across the quiet lawn. "And that is exactly why I cannot let you say the next words in this ceremony without knowing something first." I turned to Julian. His face had already started to change. That particular look of a man doing rapid math on how much of his story he can still salvage. "Julian Marsh has a wife," I said. "Her name is Priya. They married 2 years ago in Clark County, Nevada. They are still legally married today. She's sitting in the back row, and she flew here at my request because I thought she deserved to see this before it happened, not after." 212 people made a sound I can only describe as a collective intake of breath. Priya stood up slowly in the back row. She didn't say anything dramatic. She simply raised her hand, the way you'd confirm attendance, and said, quietly but clearly, "It's true, I'm his wife." Julian spun toward me, and for 1 second the mask fell completely. "You son of a," he started, and then caught himself, aware of the 200 witnesses and several phones already recording. "I have copies of the marriage certificate," I said calmly. "I have his financial records. I have 6 months of bank transfers from my accounts into his, under the pretense of wedding expenses. I have all of it, Julian, and my lawyer has had it for 3 weeks." He looked at Emily. Whatever he was about to say died somewhere behind his teeth when he saw her face. Emily wasn't looking at him anymore. She was looking at me, tears sliding down her face, and for 1 terrible second I thought she was angry at me for the timing, for the public nature of it, for taking her wedding day and turning it into a courtroom. Then she did something I didn't expect. She walked toward me, in her mother's dress, down the aisle in the wrong direction, and put both arms around my neck. "How long have you known?" she whispered. 3 weeks, I said. "I'm sorry I didn't tell you sooner. I needed to be sure. I needed him to have nowhere to run." "You saved me," she said, so quietly only I could hear it. "You actually saved me." Julian tried to say something else, something about misunderstandings, about explaining everything privately. Security. 2 men I'd hired for exactly this possibility, standing quietly near the bar since morning, walked him off the property before he finished the sentence. Priya, Marsh and Emily talked for almost an hour afterward, sitting together on a stone bench near the vineyard's east wall, 2 women who had never met, bound together by the same lie told twice. I watched from a distance and didn't interrupt. Some conversations aren't for fathers to hear. We didn't cancel the reception. 200 people had flown in. The caterer was already grilling, and Emily, my daughter, stronger than I think even she knew, walked up to the microphone during what was supposed to be the first dance and said, "This isn't the wedding I planned, but it might be the best party I've ever thrown, because every person here just watched my father save my life, and honestly, that deserves a toast more than any marriage vow would have." The whole vineyard laughed and then clapped, and somewhere in that mess of relief and champagne, I finally let myself breathe for the first time in 3 weeks. Priya stayed for the reception at Emily's insistence. The 2 of them exchanged numbers before she left that night. 6 months later, they're still in touch. Priya filed for an annulment the following week. Julian, as far as I know, is somewhere in Arizona, presumably looking for his 3rd opportunity. People ask me sometimes if I regret how public it was, whether there was a gentler way to handle it. There wasn't. A man who lies to 2 women at once, on 2 coasts, using borrowed money, does not stop because you ask him privately. He stops when there is nowhere left to run. Emily got married 8 months later. Different venue, much smaller, 40 guests. I walked her down the aisle to a man named David, an ER doctor with terrible taste in ties and the kind of steady eyes that never once made me reach for my phone to call Gloria. Some weddings you pay for twice. I'll tell you honestly, the second one was worth every penny, and I didn't need a single investigator to know it. If this story moved you, subscribe for more real family stories and let us know in the comments what you would have done in my place.
Faded flashes through the tinted window, phones buzzing, signals out of sync. Hushed voices swirling, city spin slow. Still I'm moving, engine drains. Benny high rises, pockets heavy with doubt. Silhouette in a downpour, folded bills and guilt. Blue flicker dashboard, posters in drought. Memory skips every promise, almost rebuilt. Pressure in my grip, veins humming chrome. Distant laughter stings, all we ever home. Sliding past warnings, tomorrow never calls. Hands on the wheel, watch the silence stall. It's all static when I'm near, tracing faces in the rear. Every echo's crystal clear. Can we stay lost in the mirror? Another name stitched in my sleeve, paper cup secrets spilled in the breeze. Moving through rooms with nothing to leave, counting each time you heard with ease. Heartbeat sings to the sirens page, rusting gold thread these days. Glancing reflections, searching a trace. We put our space on a shifting base. It's all static when I'm near, tracing faces in the rear. Every echo's crystal clear. Less is over, kept us here. Signals cutting, fog on glass, pulse tethered to the past. No return, we spun too fast. Morning finds what couldn't last.